My name is Jason LeBlanc, and I am a principal at Albin, Randall & Bennett. ARB is a proud sponsor of tonight's event, and we are a full-service public accounting firm offering tax, advisory, and accounting services to our business and families throughout New England. Some of you are here in the audience tonight. We're committed to being accessible to our clients' needs and offering savvy, sensible, and warm-hearted financial advice to help them thrive. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Kristen Miale, President of Good Shepard Food Banks of Maine. As a lifelong advocate for ending food security, Kristen, the president of Good Shepard Food Bank of Maine, has worked tirelessly to grow an organization partnerships throughout the state of Maine. She and her team of 80 people work together with a network of more than 400 not-for-profit organizations to distribute 25 million meals a year to families throughout Maine, making Good Shepard Food Banks the largest hunger relief organization in Maine. At this time, I'm going to turn the floor over to Kristen. Kristen, please take the stage, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to share two stories of growth with you today. The first is the obvious one, and it's the evolution of the food bank over the past 10 years. But the other is my own personal growth journey that I've been on since I've worked for the food bank. The food bank's the first nonprofit I ever worked for. I originally was a business consultant working with family-owned businesses, so big shout out to the Institute for Family-Owned Businesses. Working with family owners on strategic planning and financial planning. And then I worked for an investment company, another family-owned business, but this time it was for a high net worth family. And we did public and private investments, mostly in new ventures and a lot of startups. And at this job, I really got an inside glimpse into the immense concentration of wealth and privilege and power that exists in our country. And while many of people in that inner circle, including the family I had the honor to work for, used that power for good, many others did not. And when the Great Recession hit, I had a front row seat to watching many incredibly wealthy people able to navigate to safe investments pretty easily, often at the expense of others. Obviously, these people lost money too, but it was money that they could afford to lose. And meanwhile, I had neighbors who lost their home. And I knew that this was not the industry for me. So I started volunteering one day a week, and I started volunteering at food pantries because I love food. I love food and I love to cook. And I was immediately struck by what I saw as a lot of poor quality food being given out to people in need, and many times to people who were visibly in very poor health. And so I asked the food pantry directors, why can't we get healthier food to distribute? And what I heard was, well, we get most of our food from Good Shepard Food Bank, and this is the food they have. But I also heard, even when we have healthier food, oftentimes people can't take it. They don't know what to do with fresh food because they don't know how to cook. And so I said, well, I can help. I can teach a cooking class. And so I started offering cooking classes to programs that serve low-income families, and I fell in love with the work. And my phone started ringing off the hook. So I said, okay, I'm going to look for funding so that I can actually do this for a living. And I eventually found opportunity for funding from a national nonprofit. The only thing is I needed a corporate match, and they said, don't apply for the funding for yourself. It'll be better if you apply as an organization where this program could become a part of their work. So I went to Good Shepard Food Bank and encouraged them to start this program because I thought it would add great value to their work. And then I went to Hannaford to be the corporate sponsor because I knew Hannaford was already a significant supporter of the food bank. And it was funny. It was just like the investor community. Nobody wants to be the first one. So Good Shepard was, well, what's Hannaford think? And Hannaford was, well, what's Good Shepard think? So I took a page from those venture capitalists, and I said to Good Shepard Food Bank, yeah, Hannaford's, they're excited. And I said to Hannaford, Good Shepard is, they're in. And then I said, please don't talk to each other. And it worked. We got the funding. Good Shepard agreed to hire me to run this program, and Hannaford to this day remains the corporate sponsor of what is now our Cooking Matters program. So I left the finance industry and ran this program for 2 years and absolutely loved it, but then began hearing about that the recession was really taking a toll on the food bank. The amount of people living with hunger in Maine grew by 50%. We didn't have enough food, so we started buying food. We didn't have enough money. So the board of directors brought in an interim president to manage through the crisis, and I'd heard that he was doing some cash flow forecasting and some strategic planning, and I offered to help. And he said, "Aren't you the cooking class lady?" And I said, "Yeah, but I used to do this work." And so he said, "All right, you can help." And which was, I was free, so how was he going to say no? But we started to put together the plan, and I fell in love with the business of food banking. And he encouraged me to apply for the permanent president position, which I did, and amazingly, the board gave me the opportunity to take this job. I say amazingly because I had absolutely no experience running a food bank, but I wasn't concerned about that because we had an amazing staff, and they knew how to run a food bank. What they needed was a new vision for what the food bank was. And that was the first thing we did, is we changed the mission of the food bank from distributing surplus food to nonprofits to the mission of Good Shepard Food Bank is to improve access to healthy food for Mainers in need, build strong community partnerships, and mobilize the public in the fight to end hunger. Now, during the same time period, I was shopping at Home Depot, going through the checkout line, and the cashier stops me. And she said, "Aren't you the lady who used to do cooking classes?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "My kids and I still make that chicken nugget recipe you taught us every week," right? I goes, "Yeah, warm and fuzzies, head to toe," right? And I thought, this is why I do this work. Looking back now, I realize in some ways how selfish that was. I was motivated to do this work because how it made me feel. But we were executing our new strategic plan. It was going well. We were finding new sources of food, and we were finding new sources of healthier food, including working with Maine farms to get fresh produce. And we were finding new donors because we were changing the narrative of what the food bank was about. This is not about distributing surplus food. This is about making sure kids go to school ready to learn, and it's about making sure every Mainer has the opportunity to be their best self and reach their full potential. And we had great success. From 2012 to 2019, the food bank increased its food distribution from 10.6 million meals to 25 million meals. And more of that food was healthy. We went from 60% of the food being a food to encourage to 78%, including 37% of the food we distribute is fresh produce. And we doubled our fundraising. But we also learned a lot about poverty over this time period. Research tells us that in order for a person to experience mobility from poverty, they need three things. First, they need increased resources. We know that, that's what we do, but it's not enough. They also need to have a sense of their personal voice and personal agency, and they need to feel connected and valued in their community. Ending hunger is more than just making ourselves feel good. In fact, we have been too focused on the giver and not nearly enough on the receiver. Most food access programs were arranged around where space was available, when volunteers were available. We're so concerned with making sure only people in need actually get the help. Most programs put in place income guidelines. So we ask people who are living in the crisis of poverty to go to places they wouldn't otherwise normally go to, oftentimes at inconvenient times, make them stand in line, prove that they're poor enough to warrant needing help, and then they're given food, but oftentimes without even the dignity of being able to choose what kinds of food their family wants. So we have done an amazing job of improving access to food. We have not done a good job of making people feel valued. And so we have a new plan. And the new plan is anchored around the bold goal that by 2025, all food insecure Mainers will have access to the healthy food they need, where and when they need it. But this plan is about more than food. It is about transforming what food access looks like in the state of Maine. So we're working with new partners. We now work with over 150 schools, over 80 healthcare sites. Last week, we announced our newest partnership where we're putting 30 food pantries at Head Start preschools across the state of Maine. Putting food access in locations that are accessible for the people who need them and in environments where they feel warm and supported. And we're continuing to work with our traditional food pantries and improving the quality of the client experience. This fall, we launched our Building Advocates Leadership Program with the AIO Food Pantry in Rockland. And this program trains people who are living with hunger on skills of advocacy and storytelling and public speaking. And 2 weeks ago, we hosted a story exchange with people with lived experience with elected officials. And they told their stories about what it was like to live with hunger in Maine. One woman shared that she didn't know that anyone cared to hear her story, let alone that her story had the power to impact change. And these stories were powerful, and they were really hard to hear. There were no warm and fuzzies. In fact, more often than not these days, I feel angry and frustrated as I learn about what people living with hunger are forced to experience. But that's okay. Anger and frustration can be really motivating too. The warm and fuzzies still come, and when those moments come, I hold on to them dearly. But that is no longer what motivates me to do this work. What motivates me is the belief that everyone deserves access to healthy food and to live with dignity and to know that they're valued. And that is our Good Shepherd's growth journey and my own personal journey. And thank you for the opportunity to share it with you this evening.